Well, it is definitely even a minute after 9, so I think it would be safe to uh, get going. Good morning, everyone. Welcome so much to our highlights from the Technical Takeoff event that was recently presented here just 2 weeks back from Microsoft, or by a bunch of people from Microsoft. And it's been absolutely great. These events over the this is the third event that they are doing, but 4 days of yes, great sessions, most of them. But I really like that they're doing this. I'm very happy to see technical content coming out this way, short, bite-sized snacks, as I call them. But yeah, we're going to share some of our findings and thoughts around these here today. And Andrew, would you like to say a few words about yourself before we jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey everybody, Andrew Johnson, happy to be joining here this morning. This is always fun when Johan and I get to do this, especially now that we're doing some of these community events. Appreciate you all joining, and thank you, Johan, for having me. Kind of in the same vein as what Johan said, I've really enjoyed these events the last 3.5 years that they've put them on, because they used to be in November, now they're in May, it seems. And really, it's just nice to see some quick conversations about very specific features that we're going to see in Windows. It says Windows in Intune, but obviously there are some other sessions that are around Active Directory and Windows 365 and things like that. So we'll get into that a little bit here. But at any rate, I'm just appreciate being here this morning and everybody joining us.
All right, then. Well, I'm Johan Abedmark. I'll be the Andrew's co-host here or co-speaker during the session. I was about to say I absolutely love questions, but I already see some questions coming in the Q&A here that we have enabled here in the webinar. And if you have any questions, that is by far the best option to ask questions. So we could enable the chat, but the downside of that, if there's a lot of activity, it's really hard to keep up with answering questions in it. What I like about the Q&A feature in the Zoom call or in the Zoom meeting here, webinar, the question stays until we answer it. So please leverage the Q&A function if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to take questions as we go. I hope that answered that question. Beautiful. All right. So, Andrew, do you want to start with some of your highlights, and we can simply take it from there? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. Want me to go ahead and borrow the screen for a little bit?
I'll allow it.
All right. I was hoping so. Let's see here, portion of the screen. It's always fun sharing my screen on a large monitor.
No, it looks like a regular sized monitor to me. Full HD, 1920, 1080, like it should be.
At least my RDP session is. That's the important part.
Yeah.
So here's sort of the main page for the technical takeoff. We'll make sure that we share this page, obviously, in our links for today. One thing that I do want to mention before I hop in, so each one of these links is a session that Microsoft has presented during the technical takeoff. If you click on one of these links, we'll see a video that's posted on YouTube. But if you scroll down, I just wanted to point this out because this is across all of these sessions. Just a tip, check the comments below these videos. Oftentimes there are demos, scripts, documentation, or other resources that are shared below, either through Microsoft or from Microsoft or the community. And there are also comments and questions from the community as well. Questions about licensing, common issues, questions about Of course, you get, when is this going to be released to production and things like that. And there are times in these sessions that Microsoft is actually answering those with concrete answers. So I absolutely recommend, if you're interested in a particular session, make sure you're checking the comments. There's useful stuff there.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to devalue the sessions in any way at all, but sometimes the stuff you see in the comment section is like worth as much as the session itself, or sometimes even more, because you stumble across that gold nugget that you're like, wow, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So the first one that I wanted to talk about, this one, after watching this session, Intune Fastlane, let's talk about all things latency. This was put on by Albert Cabello. I think if you're managing Intune devices, this has to become required watching at the moment. It's a short session. It's about 18 minutes long, but it's all around when configuration updates happen on an Intune managed device. It can be confusing. I'm confused by it sometimes. And Johan and I get questions about, when does this change sync? When are the devices going to sync? When are applications going to show up? We get these questions all the time, and not surprisingly.
I mean, this was one of the sessions that I had downloaded before my flight to Sweden last week, and I watched it 3 times by now. It's just fantastic information.
It really is, because I think what we most commonly see out in the community is that we're expecting an 8-hour sync schedule. That's the time that is documented, right? And so many of us expect things to happen at a certain time on an endpoint. That might be what we're used to, or just what we're hoping we're going to get. And it turns out with Intune managed devices, that's just not the case. There are many different things that can cause a device to check in, or Intune to notify the device that there has been a change. Things like Intune will send a notification when new policies or apps are assigned or unassigned from Entra groups. If an admin modifies a policy or an application, or group membership changes, things like that. These are types of device check-ins that are actually going to cause the device to reach out to Intune and say, hey, do I have anything different going on? Or on the flip side, the service itself may reach out and say, hey, we've got a new application for you. Here's some information about it. And this session really goes through some of that stuff. It does also discuss the current device check-in model, which has been around for about 15 years, OMA-DM. You may be familiar with those acronyms, or have seen them at least. But that OMA-DM check-in model requires a whole bunch of back and forth connections between the device and Intune, and that can take several minutes. And Albert goes over all of this as well. If it fails, it has to check in again. Well, that can become very inefficient. So he does go into what the future of this looks like. There's an extension to OMA-DM called DDM, or Declarative Device Management. And this is where Intune, at a high level, the way I understand it, basically an entire document that says this is your desired state. This is the desired state of the device that you're on. That's sent down to the device. And then if there is configuration drift on the endpoint, the device itself will try to remediate locally, rather than trying to talk back and forth between the service. If it can't remediate locally, then it will trigger a check-in with Intune. But this really cuts down on the amount of check-ins and the amount of things that can go wrong. Now, DDM sounds fantastic, I think. There are only a couple of places that we think it's currently out in production. One, if you're managing Mac OS devices, you'll be able to use DDM for updates. And the other is EPM, or the Endpoint Privilege Management. But we're hoping to see this roll out more and more, kind of how we've seen improvements to the platform like Settings Catalog. The Settings Catalog, we've seen more and more things roll out over time, and we hope to see more of that as well. But absolutely fantastic session. Like I said, I definitely don't want to undersell this session. I think this should be required watching for Intune admins going forward. Anything else you'd like to add on that one, Johan?
Can I steal the screen?
Please do.
All right, I'm doing it. If you are looking into learning a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes when Intune is doing what Intune does in terms of policies and other sessions. Highly recommend this little utility from Oliver Kieselbach. Has been around for years and years. This one is a recent update of that tool, but this is just a really good utility to see what's really going on. I will paste the link here in the chat for you. When I find the chat, I will paste the link. Now, give me just a moment. Because it will show you all the different messages, everything that is going on, the timestamp for things, etc., when they're happening. So you can very clearly see what's going on here. And you can also open up the event log, and not that one, but that's for app deployments. I was playing around with that earlier. But this one here, device management, this is where we have our usual, we have our enrollment stuff, we have the autopilot things, but we also have operational events. And this is also where you can see when clients are checking in and syncing policies and whatnot. And of course, there are a ton of different event IDs for this that have their different purposes and whatnot. But just playing around with these different events here can also give an understanding to what's going on behind the scenes. Mike Niehaus did a post, whatever that was, last year in March, where he goes through some of his findings around what's going on behind the scenes in Windows. So this is a pretty good read if you're want to have some more depth information. That is well, basically what this session is about. So yeah, that's all I had on that part.
Awesome. I did see a question here from Jonathan in the Q&A. Is DDM the same as config refresh?
No, but it's similar.
Yeah.
It's still, the config fresh is just local, but the new model that and it's available now, or was November? When did it came? October, November?
That sounds right. Config refresh.
Yeah.
Last
year at some point. But the DDM model is not yet in production. It's not yet available. So as I understood that from listening to Albert's session, it's more like a mix of a local config refresh and sync for changes. They're just trying to reduce the time frame it takes, and they're trying to reduce the number of round trips that the client has to do. Because, I mean, Intune is a managed service. They have 60-some million clients. It would be bad if you have clients checking in every 5 minutes. And that is also something we stumbled across. Organization, they try to get clever. And they figure out that, all right, we can actually, through PowerShell, we can force syncs. So you're going to create a scheduled task that syncs every 2 hours. Yeah, Microsoft will detect that you do that, and they will throttle you. So now you're in deep water. So don't do that. Instead, wait until these changes are being implemented. I do remember Rudy, he did some blogging around the config refresh last year. See if I can find that article. No, my searching skills are not finding that one at the moment. Wonder if this Reddit thread has some links to it. No. I'll see if I can find it later. If so, I'll put it in the chat, but otherwise, back to you, sir.
I think I just found it. And I also found his ultra deep dive on DDM as well. So
all right, then.
Let's see, borrow the screen again. So this right here, all about config refresh.
Yeah, that was the one I was looking for.
Yeah. And then he also has, so this is February of last year, and then September of 23. I think as far as I remember, Rudy was one of the first ones that discovered DDM was showing up there in the underlying events and code. And he wrote a whole deep dive and flow and everything on his findings of that feature.
He's funny that way. He doesn't just take text for an answer. He actually debugs the DLLs and the binaries.
Yeah,
and tries to figure out what's going on.
And then you get this flow.
Yeah, that's for that you need a 4K monitor size big.
Definitely. All right. So that was, I'll share these links here shortly when Johan's going over some of his, but this session was a huge standout for me. A couple of others that I'll touch on briefly, and then I have a one from Thursday that I really liked, and it's timely for me because I'm going to be presenting on it at a user group next week, which is exciting.
Good job.
Yeah, thank you. So the second one that I wanted to mention is the Windows 11 kiosks by Stephen Hosking. Great. Stephen's awesome. I've had a lot of conversations with him at MMS. Very, very smart dude. And he does a good job of breaking things down and explaining why or how to do things. He's one part of the Intune.training YouTube channel, along with Adam Gross. Anyways.
Did you notice my shirt today?
Hey, nice. Yeah, you are wearing one of their shirts. That's awesome.
Yeah, they gave it to me last year. I figured, to honor the day, I should.
Absolutely. So Stephen's great, but the reason that I wanted to bring up this one specifically is I'm hearing more and more about kiosks as organizations are going through their Windows 11 upgrade. I think that a lot of organizations, as they've gone through this upgrade process from Windows 10 to Windows 11, probably not surprisingly, are leaving things like kiosks until the end. And partially because kiosks changed a lot from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So Stephen goes through these changes along with what options are available now in Windows 11, talks about some of the previous, some of the pain points in previous versions of Windows 11 and how Microsoft has started to improve the experience. So things like up until I think 23H2, things like Dev Home would still show up in the start menu in kiosks and that sort of thing. So if you looked at kiosks with Windows 11 a couple of years back, might be a good time to take a look at them again. Pretty demo heavy sessions, about 45 minutes long, and this will help get you started in configuring Windows 11 kiosks. On Wednesday, one of my favorite ones, this is also not in production yet, but we've been talking about it for a while. We've gotten some questions on office hours about it for a while. Administrator protection in Windows 11. So basically, administrator protection is going to provide us just-in-time admin rights as opposed to being admin all the time, where we, where even as admins, we're often just left in the administrators group. This will help us get just-in-time admin rights, integrates nicely with Windows Hello for Business. As I said, this is just available in insider preview, no production release date shared yet. But I like this one because this is sort of showing some upcoming really cool feature that is going to be helpful for us, I think. And then last but not least, one of my favorites, again, the latest and greatest in the world of Windows Lapse. Jay Simmons hosted this session. Lapse has come a very long way the last couple of years. Once the legacy Lapse solution was decommissioned, as it were, deprecated in favor of Windows Lapse. And now they're starting to evolve and improve Windows Labs itself. So Jay goes through some of the new features in the latest version of Windows Labs for Windows 11 24 H2 and Server 2025 specifically. And this session is a great example of, if you scroll down to the comments, there are separate demos for each of these new features that Jay goes over and highlights. All of this session is configuring Windows Labs with group policy, the new features with group policy, and the new features are things like automatic account management. So up until 24H2 and Server 2025, if you wanted to use a different account rather than the built-in administrator account for Labs, you had to have some way of creating that account ahead of time. Now Labs will support automatic account creation. There are some passphrases are now available as well in these later versions. We have some other password complexity features that have improved readability, which do things, for example, like don't put a 0 next to an O. There's no 1, there's no I in the password. So some useful stuff for us as admins. If you've seen Labs passwords up to this point, they're just long, randomly generated strings. So it can be a little bit of a crummy user experience, but they're improving that. There's some new post-authentication processes. And then two other things that I noticed specifically for on-prem. Rollback detection. So this will rotate the password after detecting a mismatch between Active Directory and the client. Meaning if you're reverting to a snapshot or restoring a backup or things like that, and the password had been updated just before that backup, but the device may have missed it, this rollback detection is going to help. That one's not supported in Entra, that is just Active Directory, as well as the on-prem disaster recovery feature. If you are storing your Labs passwords in Active Directory, that's going to allow you to recover encrypted Labs passwords from an AD database backup without a live domain controller. And he goes through that demo. It's pretty cool to see. So I did mention this is all around group policy. I did pull a couple of other links. If you want to use some of these new features in Intune, they still do require custom CSPs at the moment. They are not available in the settings catalog, but I did want to make sure that I shared some resources for those of you wanting to use them with Entra and Intune as well. But those are the big standouts for me, Johan. I definitely did saw some sessions on Hot Patch. I saw some other sessions, several sessions around Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. So if those are important to you, we would definitely recommend checking those out as well. But these four really stuck out to me. So I wanted to share those today.
All right. Let me share some of my findings. First of all, I totally agree with the sessions that you watched. And again, the fast lane is still the #1 winner by far. But first, I wanted to share, Microsoft did just before the event here, they published 2 listings of stuff. Not that one, but over here, where first of all, there is a list of just all the Intune sessions in the single go. And the links to them, etc. So would recommend that one. So put that in the chat for you, if you just give me a little moment here. See your Andrew's pasting some links also. And then we have Windows itself on the platform. That team or that part of the team also put together a list here, Harjit did, and when those are on with links, etc. So I'll put that link also in the chat. I did like the Windows roadmap in the cloud session, even though I primarily myself don't work too much with AVD and Windows 365. We do have customers that are using it. I use it as part of my consulting work because we often get a Windows 365 VM from the customer that we use for management. So this was a nice see. session that went through and covered the different changes, including performance changes that they're doing. For example, if you have networks that are a bit not so good, so high latency or just very poor links, they made some changes regarding they call it UDP turn, basically optimizing it for not so good networks. And they're also improving on the video playback. So support for better codecs, and so you can have like rich video streams going on inside of that Windows 365 thing. So I like that a lot. And they also talked a little bit about the Windows app thing that you mentioned in our office hours Wednesday. It's Friday today. But basically that Microsoft is pushing for the new Windows app when it comes to connecting to these resources. Did you have that link from Office Hours still, Andrew, with the announcement that from now on that's going to be the only supported method going forward?
I'm sure that I do have that. Let's see. Yes. You just drop it in the chat.
Yes, please. Can I bring it up on the screen here?
Okay.
I'm a master at copying and paste.
There we go.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be this one here. Important to know. All right. Some other things that stood out to me was 2 sessions regarding updating. So this one here, session by Robbie and Monica, go through the changes that Microsoft did in October last year in terms of providing a unified interface for updates. So basically including auto patch and update policies in the same pane and with the same type of visibility, even though of course auto patches, it's not managed fully by you, it's managed partly by you. But basically, if you go to the Intune console these days and log in with a reasonable account, what I'm talking about is what's done here. I just click Windows to make the pane a little bit smaller here to the left, but having everything in one single go here, including monitoring and stuff like driver updates and whatnot, and just combining this in one go. So this is where you see a mix where I have auto patch policies together with manual update rings that I have created. And these are rings that I have imported from the Open Intune baseline project. It's a great project if you need a jumpstart to get going with policies in Intune. I don't really know where to start, but it is just a fantastic jumpstart kit. And of course, here is all the auto patch policies that I currently have. And the thing here, you don't need to enroll all your devices in auto patch. You can just have a few of them enrolled, and you can see, okay, how does that work in your environment? So that was a good session regarding that. And then, as Andrew mentioned, that also there was a session on Hot Patch, which is currently in preview. They explained how it works. They didn't quite get to how you configured some of the requirements for it, but luckily, I think it was Bruce that posted something around that on Twitter.
Yes, he did.
Basically, there is a dependence on well, pretty much virtual security. So you need to enable that in your settings catalog to be able to use this. But this was a great session on how Hot Patch is working, what the limitations are, and yeah, this looks quite promising. So I like that one. Okay, that was all I had in terms of sessions that I stumbled across that I like. But I also stumbled across a pretty creative way of getting a summary from them. I'm a big fan of either Copilot or ChatGPT, but what I found is that when I go to the YouTube link here, You cannot just click it because it won't open in YouTube. But if you right click and open in new tab or new window, whatever you do, it does take you to that link. And down here on every video, if you click more, there will be a shortcut to show transcript. And that will obviously give it the transcript up here, and you can toggle off the timestamps here. And then you can just take that and paste in ChatGPT and say, hey, give me a summary. And I was able to get some pretty dang good summaries from the sessions. I pasted one into a Word document just to show you what the result looks like. If I can find Word, I will happily share that link, or I should share that result. So basically, here was the summary I got from on ChatGPT. And it just outlines everything very, very nicely. And it allows you to consume a 20-some minute video in, I don't know, however long a time to take for it to read this. Obviously, for the gory details, like the fast lane, you actually have to watch the video. The summary is not enough, but if you're just trying to get a grasp of what the different session is about, this is a good one. I liked it. So
great tip.
Just about, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Just one of those, AI can be quite useful at times. All right. Do we have any more questions? That is the question. Anything out there that you are curious to know about? And I will put these session links in the chat also.
And I did drop that tweet from Bruce on how to configure.
Yeah, I saw it.
Perfect.
Let me get to that link and show it. I'm not sure if I can see all the details in the replies here because I'm not logged into Twitter on this PC. No, it does show the screenshots. A little bit hard to see perhaps, but these are the policies that you need to configure. So, good one. Community at its finest.
Oh, and I do see a reply in that thread that if you have a clean Windows 11 22H2 or above install, that should be enabled by default.
Even better.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you have anything older than 22H2, you should probably upgrade because that one will be out of support by now.
Yep.
All right. Well, if there are no questions from you guys, I have a question to you. So in fact, I think I'm gonna enable the chat after all. At least so that you can send us a message. That should be done now. These community sessions, is there any topic you would like to see? Because we will try to do them more frequently than we had done in the past. We basically just started up the community last summer, and we did our first community event in
December.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old. Don't get old, Andrew, if you can avoid it. It's memory's not what it used to be.
Keep trying, but it just keeps happening. I don't.
Day by day, yeah. I hear
Yeah.
you. But if there are any topics, anything that you really would like us to make some sessions around, let us know. Put it in the chat, and then we'll see it. You can put it in the Q&A for that matter also, that works. But anything you can think of, we'll be happy to see if we can get creative around, or if there are guests that you want to see, we can try to convince them to join also. Would be cool to have Albert join. That'd be fun. Maybe we can do that for office hours or something.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And of course, too, I mean, even if there's nothing coming to mind right this moment, hopefully we see you in the community, you know, and we can continue the conversation there.
Exactly. And I'm actually in there with 2 accounts. my regular Johan account and also my alter ego Hans, which I use for demonstration purposes and be able to show things how it looks. But I usually don't keep an eye on questions for that account, but that is also me behind the scenes. But sure enough, in the community, this is where we have events like this one that you already found out. And of course, we will post more events as they go. And this is where we have all different spaces where you can ask questions or basically just interact with the other community folks. And we are closing up on almost 600 members now in the community. Very, very happy for that. But if there are no other questions, I really don't hope I missed any. Doesn't look like we have any unanswered questions. I would like to thank you all for taking the time joining us this morning, or it's your morning here in the US at least. But thank you so much. It means a lot seeing you here in our community. And on behalf of Andrew and I, will wish you a fantastic weekend and maybe see you in office hours next week on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Johan. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.